So it was dev at there. So in this case, I already have a pre-generated key, so I'm just going to use that. And what it basically does is it appends it to a SSH configuration file, and it just does it. I mean, you could run this in probably 2 or 3 commands, but it just puts a nice wrapper around it, and yep, it makes it nice and simple. So security now, logs in. Okay, so now we can just do SSH dev, and we just sign in with the key and with the key, and yeah, we don't have to even type in our password. So at this point, you could go into the configuration file and actually remove the disable the password authentication. So actually, if you sign in now, or I mean try to SSH in without the SSH key, you won't be able to log in. It will say like denied public key or something like that. Just to show you what the authentication looks like. Let's see, it says here, yeah, so after the initial handshake process, initial handshake stuff going on, it says that you could either authenticate with a public key or the password, and so you basically you keep going through the public keys available on the system, and before you hit the one that will work. And because of asymmetric crypto, it doesn't matter if you throw the wrong key, and eventually succeeds and you're able to sign in. Alright, so that's SSH configuration files. Then it's var log. So this is the general log directory with the different Linux logs. The important one I want to point out is the auth log. So let's see. So this is just, I mean, there's a lot of different logging activity that happens here. It's just not just SSH, but you can tell from SSHD. Let's see. Good for SSHD. Yeah, so you could see basically SSH activity from here. So if you have a failed login, let's see, from one of the first times, yeah, failed password. So basically you could see like failed login attempts, and that's very useful for the next part. Let's see if there's anything else to cover. Let's see, okay, yeah, so gosh darn it. Alright, so that's important because there's a tool called tool fail to ban. There's setting sudo apt install fail ban. And it's a pretty simple package. Basically, it just monitors logs for too many failed login attempts. Basically, what it does is check the IP address it came from, and let's see, so where's it? Failed password from IP address, and it basically blocks that IP address after too many failed attempts according to its configuration file. And you can also specify the amount of time. So for example, I just have it blocked for -1 time, which basically means block forever. So after you install it, so I just installed it and it's now up and running. Oops. Yeah, so it's up and running, and you can go into Etsy, and this is the general configuration directory. So like, yeah, failed demands right there, and see. If I can remember the correct one, I think it's jail. Yeah, so SSH server, let's see. And the configuration file is formatted a bit interestingly. I think this uses so it doesn't specify the max retry and the timeouts. I think it uses the default, whatever that is. Yeah, it's the default options. And IPs that you ignore from. So you could set it so then it's like ban time is -1, max retry is just you could be lenient like 10, or you could just put 3. Basically, the point of fail to ban is 1, it's to block the botnets trying to brute force their way into your server. So the second you put anything on the internet, there's going to be botnets trying to brute force and trying to attack your server. Just like automated attacks. They're not interested in your server. They're just attacking indiscriminately anything out there, just scanning and attacking whatever they find. They try to log in through the root user. That's why you lock it down. That's why you disable the login. But fail to ban just make sure that those IP addresses are going to be blocked and will like have no way of getting in. The additional thing is, so when someone is maliciously trying to get into your server and they have an idea of what your password is, but not definitely, they could try logging in with the password that they're guessing, but after X amount of attempts, they get locked out. And if it's indefinitely, then so long. They just won't be able to try the rest of the passwords that they can think of, or they could use some word list of some highly probable passwords, but they won't be able to try them all unless they just set up a bunch of VPSs. But that's a pretty big deterrence. Let's see. So yeah, it's failed to ban. I think there's other similar tools, but this is one of them, and it's pretty easy to get up and running. Fail to ban also uses something called IP tables. Yeah, I'll get into that. So IP tables, basically, you could just list out what rules there are. IP tables is basically a control. I think it's at the kernel level. Basically controls what happens to network activity that the machine receives. So, like, fail to ban automatically creates IP table rules. So, like the IP address from earlier. Oh, I cleared the screen. So, oops, darn it. There we go. So like the IP address from earlier, the failed password, it'll take that and create an IP table rule. So it says source from that IP address, the 159. It'll block it. So I think it's reject or something like that. Yeah, and you could also set up your manually set up IP table rules. So for example, on my VPN, I set incoming connections on export to go to that export on a seed box I was running. So I could also upload from that seed box instead of just download, because for torrenting that port for oncoming connections is used for your uploads too. So yeah, I had to forward that port using IP tables, or else nothing would get through. And so that would be, for example, gosh, I don't know off the top of my head. Let's see if I can find it. Deep route? No, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done it. I could probably find it on Google again, though. Yeah, whatever. Let's see. There's also something called UFW. List, I think. Status. So, let's see. I also set this up once a while ago. I don't remember exactly. But basically, it's a very simple wrapper for IP tables. So you could, so it has like a pre-built list of applications, I think, or I mean, when you install applications, it gets different profiles for what to allow, what to block, that kind of stuff. Or you could just really easily create rules for what to block, what to allow, that kind of stuff. Yeah, basically it allows very simple firewall configuration. Let's see. So it basically uses IP tables, though. Alright, so now that you have your server, that's fine and dandy, but there's nothing on the server. There's some basic, terminal config files. So now we want to actually get something onto the server. Let's see. So I'm gonna get a HTML page on there for demo for the next, for coming up next. Let's see, yeah. All right, so I wrote a nifty tool for converting Markdown files to HTML. So we're just gonna use that to get a simple web page. And so I'm also going to have some pre-built, predefined CSS. So this is basically just CSS, define some formatting for the HTML. HTML, it's just supposed to be the data. Data, which is so it basically HTML is supposed to be just the data that you're representing, and CSS is just the formatting. That's technically the convention. Let's see. Alright, and you can see that there's prepended the CSS up here. And then we get the actual HTML of the markdown that was, the markdown that was converted to HTML. So there's a few different ways we could transfer it. The simplest is with SCP, and I mentioned in the original presentation that SCP was basically that SCP used SFTP. That was wrong. So SCP is basically just uses SSH to transmit files. That's basically it. SFTP is FTP, the file transfer protocol, but it is wrapped in SSH. And then there's also some other variants. There's FTPS, which is FTP over SSL, or TLS, which is basically just like HTTPS traffic. Or there's FTPES, which is explicit encryption, I believe, or explicit security, something like that. Basically, for the most part, you might just be using SCP. I think FTP or SFTP, you might use it like if you're using your file manager, you could specify when you're connecting to a server. Like this is some local server I have, and it uses SSH, so you just sign in with your SSH credentials, and there you go. Let's see, I could disconnect that now. But we're just going to use SCP though. So secure copy the HTML file we generated to dev. Alright, still got on my clipboard, that's good. To the server over here that we're running. So let's see, that should be it. And right, so you have to also specify in SCP what path it is. So you do a colon and just the home directory. And let's see, yeah, transfer it over. It's just HTML. It's just a plain text file, so it's really fast. All right, so there we go. And if you just view the top part of the file, just confirm. Yeah, looks good. Alright, so that's just intro to like file transfers. Let's see. Wireshark. Okay. So we installed the web server. One of the first things we did after setting up the lower privilege user. So it's Nginx. Let's go over to the configuration file. So the way they separate it is nginx.conf is the primary configuration for Nginx itself, but you could also have different sites that are hosted on a Nginx instance. So that will be in sites enabled or sites available. Enabled basically specifies what sites are actually going to be active. Available is just all of them in case you want to just have some that are inactive or some backup site configurations, just for your own separation. So by default there's just a default one. So let's go into that. So here's just some basics about the web server. Listens on port 80, typical for HTTP server. Just follows the conventions. Root. So this is the root directory. So whenever you access that server in a browser or like to view any of the, you just view the website, everything will be in here. Let's see, index. So when you go to a directory, it'll first pull up the index files if they exist. Let's see. This is mostly it. There's some other settings that you could set in here. That's just the essentials though. Alright. So let's go to the root r www. Alright. So first let's just see. Let's just go to the server first. Where is it? Here. Alright, I typed it wrong. So just have that IP address, go to it, and you'll see this. This is just the default page that they automatically generated. So your web browser will fill in some parts of this. Like, let's see. Okay, let's see. So your web browser fills in some parts of these, like Yeah, there we go. So it specifies the HTTP protocol, and so that's the HTTP protocol, and then followed by the server address. It could be a domain name, but we haven't set that up yet. So this might be like example.com. In this case, it's just the IP address. They're essentially equivalent. And then we have the path that you're looking for. So it might be like WordPress site might be /wp content /something.html. For example. In this case, we're just hitting the root directory, so that basically pulls the index from earlier, the configuration file. So in that case, it's this one. So this is equivalent to, doing this. It's just the web server simplifies it and just pulls it up automatically. Alright, so, let's get things moving along now. Let's copy over the markdown file we converted. We have to do sudo for that because this is a protected directory. So we copy it over to the current directory and stop that. Okay. So there we go. You see that? And we go back to here, and instead we specify gfm.html, and look what we have here. This is the converted markdown file we have from earlier, but the web browser interprets it into some formatting and some content. Alright. And some table of contents, some simple formatting. Right. And you could, so from here we could use, like I installed Python, so you could do pip install like Django or like Flask, or you could do npm and I think it's init or something like that, or start. I forgot. And basically just start up some framework, put in Bootstrap if you want, just build your website, and this can become, whatever website you're trying to host. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all for in terms of web servers. Okay. Alright, so something else I want to touch on. Let's see. There's a nifty tool called Wireshark. It's just fundamentals for doing networks, whether it's for offensive, defensive, or just non-security work. So basically, it's very simple. What it does, it just captures network traffic and it just shows like all the packets and all of the data that's going through. So we're just going to choose the interface that's going on. This is the wireless interface. It could be the Ethernet. This could be we could be tracking the VPN tunnel. We're just going to choose Wi-Fi. Alright, so I'm going to switch the protocol to SSH. So filters are very important because there's a lot of network traffic that's going on. So you want to do stuff like IP address, or you want to do ARP, and you want to look at SSH, whatever other protocol. So we're going to filter to just SSH. And let's see. So dev. Alright, so we got SSH over to dev, and we're going to see what it looks like. And, oh, that was unexpected. Oh, I know why. Oh, silly me. Yeah, that should have been expected actually. Alright, so we just have SSH traffic, and okay, so ignore that. That was just disconnect traffic. So we're going to connect over and see from there, and everything afterwards. So we could tell from here that, or not tell, we could see from here the encryption, or not encryption, the initialization handshake. So basically the client connects to the server and says, you know, I want to start connecting to you, and, you know, set up a connection. So we could see from here all the data that's being sent, and a breakdown of the traffic. So we got see at the application layer, or I mean, we could see that it's an SSH protocol. We see the TCP layer of it, you know, what port it is, see a frame, see interface. You know, this gets more interesting later on though. I was only looking at the first one, so going through. So you can see basically how the protocol works too. So it's the initial, basically saying what client version it is, details about the client, and it's the response from the server. Let's see some more information. Here's just the key exchange. Yeah, it's saying what algorithms you could accept. So this is from what I was saying earlier about the algorithms, or the different ciphers. So, you know, both the client and server will say what algorithms they can handle, and they'll find some sort of intermediate that will work for them. So it's like, oh, we could both use all these different you know, ciphers, and they'll decide on one that they can use. Let's see, in this case, I think it was Cha-Cha 20. And yeah, they both do the key exchange. Basically, just make sure there's no man in the middle going on. And yeah, and then afterwards, it's just encrypted traffic. So if you notice, I could type a bunch of stuff in, and every single keystroke is sent back to the... Every single keystroke is sent as network traffic. So I could do something like, I'll just go something on top. So this is basically like a system monitor, and every single time it refreshes, it's going to send back new traffic, or it's going to send back a new packet with all the new data on here. And this is even for when I'm doing SCP. So, yeah, so if I'm doing SCP over, copying the file over, then it'll do the whole thing over again. You know, SSH, key exchange, authentication process, and then it'll send over as the encrypted data, all this stuff here. Alright, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that you could do with Wireshark. I used it at one of my workplaces for developing a network man-in-the-middle tool with IPv6, and it was very, very useful to have Wireshark, because basically you could see everything that was going on. You could tell what was working, what was not. You could tell where things were failing, like when you could tell that the client was receiving traffic or was not receiving the traffic, that kind of stuff. Let's see, I think that's mostly it. Oh yeah, so one of the stuff that was additionally mentioned in the actual presentation was we had looked over at a case study. Special thanks to Josh for bringing it up. Basically, where I close this now. Basically, one of the organizations at school. This is where network security can go wrong, or web application specifically. So, one of the clubs at school got attacked, and the website got the website got defaced. Let's see. So if we go to the website, so this is what we get. This is certainly not what the website is supposed to be. If we type it in, this is what we get. So this is the actual BIA website. So what is happening? Well, cutting it short, or cutting straight to the chase, essentially the website is running WordPress. So you can see from WP content, you can see from 4.7.5, let's see there, WordPress version, let's see, there's something else there, WordPress version. So with a bit of research, 4.7 is so there's a few places you could find this. So you can just search up the CVEs, find what vulnerabilities are out there. You can just straight up just search the version. Let's see, no, this is not it. So we're just seeing what latest version it is. Gosh, where is it again? There we go. So 4.7 was 4 months ago now. So the thing about so there's two aspects to this. First, WordPress is a fairly susceptible web framework, hosting platform. It's fairly susceptible to vulnerabilities. So basically, the second part is that you need to keep your stuff updated and patched as soon as possible. In terms of security, that when patches come out, that's because there's a vulnerability out there and it's been fixed, or something's been found that's very wrong and there's a fix for it. So in terms of WordPress, these updates should be applied ASAP. So there were quite a few months where this vulnerable website was sitting around and had there was a window of opportunity to exploit it, and in this case it has. So here's the CVEs, and basically you can see all the vulnerabilities for it. I don't think this is the correct page specifically, but you get the idea. Basically, all the vulnerabilities for WordPress. There's a specific page that shows this the WordPress version 4.7. Anyways, so let's continue on to how exactly this attack works. So I could pull up a web proxy, but I'm just going to keep it simple. Let's see. Where is it? So if I just refresh this site, okay, so the initial request to BIA returned this. In reality, it was supposed to be, let's see, where is it? Oh yeah, here. In reality, I was just supposed to get all this stuff. So what happened is that what Josh and I were theorizing is that the exploit basically checks for the headers for when you make the web request, and if it's from Google or from some other search engine, then it'll redirect you or it'll return this response when it should be this instead. So frames are actually, there's the legitimate use for frames, but basically in terms of web application security, frames are useful because they show, you could show some targeted website on a malicious website. Frames are basically a window into some other site. In this case, it's a completely opposite way. It's a victim site, and you're getting it to an attacker's site. But anyways, so basically this is indeed BIA SJSU that you're accessing, but you're viewing a window into this website right here. So if we just go to that website, you'll see right here, it's the thing that we were returned earlier when following the BIA SJSU Google result. So yeah, Justin, we were theorizing that so one of the big takeaways, we were theorizing that this attack was from some indiscriminate scanning, and that might be like 5-10 years ago maybe, that we're a small website for some small organization, we're tucked off in the middle of nowhere or something like that, and no one's going to hack us. Except with the advent of stuff like Shodan or mass scan, that is a lot less relevant. With these mass entire internet scanning in under 5 minutes, or internet search engines basically for whatever you want, it's harder and harder to hide and it's harder to hide and use security through obscurity. This search is taking a while, but basically, let's see. Well, this might not be the West representation, but I mean, people have used Shodan for finding all the for identifying unsecured remote connections, for identifying or open VNC connections, basically, for finding all the IoT devices that were used, but for the Mariah botnet, stuff like that. Shodan basically does stuff like mass scan, except does it for you, and also network mapping and map. It just does it for you, and you could search through the results. So I mean, it's just hiding with security through obscurity is just less and less relevant, and it's more and more important to stay up to date. And as some people say, P your S, or patch your shit. So that's like the least you could do without any security knowledge, is to just keep your stuff up to date and make sure stuff like this doesn't happen to you. That's essentially where the presentation left off on. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys liked, disliked, what you guys want to be presented next time. Thanks for watching.